Hi guys, just talking about another newsletter there today. So hope you're enjoying them. Enjoying them, even enjoying them. Okay, so the quote I have, a lot of these are from Jim Rohn. I think I'll be using his quotes for I don't know how many more. I'd say, honest to God, it could be nearly 20, 20 newsletters. I was reading over a couple of lines. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. So if you like quotes, he's definitely one to start with. So motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. I couldn't agree with that more. People think, God, you must be very motivated to say running or training, or it's just you're used to it. Like a lot of it is, it just has to be that you get used to, yeah, you get used to that type of training. So um, yes, you have a motivation, you have a burning desire of what you want. Is it a race you want to do? Is it you want to look a certain way? But what keeps you going day to day is just having your set plan, having that as a habit that you're just used to doing it. Okay, and that's the thing with the Pilates as well. That it's just better if you're just used to doing it. You do your hour. That's why even with the online, I always say to people, have a time, because if you have all the time, you have no time. If you can do it any time, things get pushed. If it's like 7 o'clock Monday night or 7 a.m. Monday morning or whenever, 1 o'clock Tuesday, but always just have your set time. It just gets into the habits of things. So I really like that. Motivation's what gets you started. Habits what keeps you going. The infographic this week is different. It's a study I was looking up, right? So his world-class long-distance running performances are best predicted by volume of easy runs and deliberate practice of short interval and tempo running. I'll leave it there. It's just like an interesting article. So I just put the introduction. Basically, they're showing that you're. I'll be doing this on another one, but basically, there's three things that you need to do to. This is kind of a running focused one. This week because the infographic is running as well, I suppose. But basically, there's three things you need to do to be good at running. One is your VO2 max has to be good, and that's your ability to take in oxygen. Okay, so the type of sessions, they'll be your shorter type of sessions that they talk here, like between like 1,000 meters, kind of mile ones that get you breathing, get you able to use a lot of oxygen. Okay, so that's your interval type of work. Okay, that's one thing you that needs to be good to get good at running, and you can improve that. The second thing that can improve a lot is your threshold. So how much, basically, before you start accumulating lactic acid, lactate and H plus ions, so lactic acid as most people know it as, how quickly can you run up to that point? Because once you go past that point, you're going to start decreasing your speed. Okay, so that's improved by, it's called a lot of things like threshold, tempo, usually that 85% intensity, or if you get a heart rate, if you get your lactic test done, which I would really recommend everybody to do, and you have your heart rate monitor, you just know exactly what your zones are. So again, that needs to be quite defined and developed in athletes to do well at distance running. And the last thing is running economy. And running economy is like how efficient you are at using the oxygen. Okay, so you could have a great engine, but if you're like slapping the ground, or your knees buckle in, or your core goes, it means that it's like having a 4 liter engine, but like your wheels being totally deflated. Yes, you got the VO2 max, you got your threshold, the engine's working fine, but it's like if the wheels aren't fully pumped, it's going to be much harder for that to move, and it's the same. So that's where the sports Pilates would come in a lot, because, and maybe doing shorter stride work, because that's working on your running economy. And I would have said with some of the marathon people, it's grand when you're going into your marathon specific work, say maybe 3 months beforehand. About 3 months beforehand. But before that, you want to be working on your 5k, 10k, keeping a bit of speed in there, just to work on the running economy section. And especially that's where the sports Pilates would help. So they're the kind of three things that we would always try to work on. Okay, next then is the training section. Get the specific training correct for your half marathon. Okay, and this is essentially, Jim Davis used to say, like, running training was like baking a cake, and I would agree with him. Like the the base or the sponge part is your lactic training, your runs, your long runs. But especially like say 6 weeks out, or maybe once a week anyway, you want to be doing kind of 10k half marathon specific work. Okay, so I just went through some 3 type of sessions that you could do. Now I'll be putting these in, excuse me, I'll be putting these in as we go, but just if you're doing your own training or you want to suggest to your own coach. I have my own coach, he does all these as well. So the 3-minute intervals. So 3-minute intervals are a favourite workout for many athletes because they're long enough to gain the physiological adaptations, running at a high intensity, but not so long that you can't maintain the pace. So they're really good for the deliberate practice high end. So you'll see those 1,000-meter runs. So for you, probably you wouldn't be hitting 1,000 meters. A lot of you won't. But they're really good. Just 3 minutes because you can get a good hard effort in. So 6 by 3 minutes with 90 seconds recovery with a good warm up, good cool down. It's a great session, especially if you're going to be doing a half marathon because it works on that running economy as well. Plus gets you breathing hard and working on that VO2 max. The next one is called K in and K outs. The person I know who did this the most is Callum Hawkins. He's ran 60 minutes dead. I think he's ran at 60 minutes dead 3 times. So he's never gone 59, which is annoying for him. But he's ran 60 dead for a half marathon, which is impressive. So the idea about this is that to work out, you run a faster segment followed by an active recovery where you still maintain a good pace. Okay, so it's kind of you're not you don't go real easy jogging. You're going from like decent pace and then back down. So the idea being it teaches your body to recover and buffer any lactic. Okay, so the idea being here that even you're running hard and then rather than just getting a complete rest, you get used to trying to recover at a decent enough pace. Sometimes you can go between lactic threshold and lactic heart rate like 80% back down to about 65% on your heart rate. Generally what you do in marathon, your marathon heart rate, or like if we were doing zones, it would be zone 3 and zone 4. So then sorry, there was a message came in. I should have put my phone on thing. I was reading that. All right, so how you would do that is generally what you do is you do 1,000 meters at that lactic threshold and then 1,000 meters at the like a good recovery pace, maybe like a 60% pace. I'm just going to move this down because it's actually too covering it in. Okay, and you might do 5 by a K, so 10k total. So 5 by a K hard about 80%, then a K easier about 60%, or lactic threshold down to marathon kind of pace. Okay, as your recovery. So your full marathon pace. So you could go half marathon pace for a K down to a full marathon pace for a K. And again, the first one go a little bit conservative, especially with 10 of these, like with 5 hard Ks, 5k easies, and just see how you get on. So that's a good session to start with. Then the next one, right, is called a speed sandwich. This is number 3. There's only 4. In training, it can be sometimes tricky to stimulate the fatigue that you feel towards the end of a half marathon. But this workout should do the trick nicely. The idea is that during the second half of the workout, you're asking your body to run at a sustained pace, even though you're already at higher levels of lactate. And it can help with like surges in races, and as I said, just being able to run smooth and controlled when you're actually already tired. So the idea with this session is you would run 2 miles at your threshold pace, at your tempo pace, at 85%. Again, that's that kind of 1 sentence pace when we're saying threshold or tempo, that you should be able to kind of sing 1 sentence of a song and then need to take a breath. If you're like having to take a breath after 2-3 words, you're going too fast. If you can sing like 2 or 3 lines of a song, you're going too slow. So just generally judge that, or get a test, and if you message me, I can try and get that sorted out for you. I know 1 or 2 guys who do that. So it's just worth getting, like, because if you get it 1 time in your life, it's only about €100 as well. Like if you do it 1 time in your life, you'll kind of have it for life. The way of categorizing this is pace. Yeah. So what you would do with this is you go 2 miles at like a tempo pace, then take 3 minutes recovery, then do 3 by 5 minutes at 2 minute jog recovery, and that'd be quicker than that threshold pace. So you're doing 3 by 5 minutes, good run, and then finish with a 2 mile threshold again. Okay, so a long bulky session there, but for a half marathon that's great because the second 2 mile is just getting you used to being able to run when you're a little bit fatigued. Okay, and then the last one is 400 meters but reducing recovery. And again, this is going to work more on that running economy, keeping your stride going basically. So basically it helps build strength and speed endurance, which is good. And again, even though it's a half marathon, the more efficient your stride is, the more ground you can cover. So we're looking at ones to improve threshold, looking at ones to improve like the strength and your running economy. So you do 3 sets of 400 meters. Okay, and you take 60 seconds recovery on your first rep, 45 seconds for your second, and 30 seconds for your third rep. So okay, so you just decrease the recovery you're getting. And then take a kind of lap jog, 3 to 4 minutes between each set. Okay, and just remember, don't go too hard at the start. You have 3 sets of this, so you have time to build into it. That way. Again, just set it. You should always feel with any of these sessions that you could do a few more reps. You don't want to be absolutely out on your feet at all times. Okay, so that's the last one. That'd be 3 sets, so it's 12 400s. So you do your first 400, then you have 60 seconds rest, second 400, 45 seconds rest, next 400, 30 seconds rest, and then your last 400. Okay, and then take 3 minutes off and repeat that 2 more sets. Okay, so there's sample kind of half marathon or 10k sessions that I'd recommend that people, elite athletes do. Yeah, great. So the next one then is avoiding the injury section. Okay, so we got 8 things that can lead to a running injury. So sometimes running injuries are you just get unlucky, you can just get an injury, but there's a lot of times there's like things that you're doing that are contributing to it, and it's like, especially if you get niggles the whole time. Now with the Pilates, what's brilliant is just getting the messages, and I love the messages just to know. So I love when people are posting up how it's helping or what it is. It just gives you encouragement to keep going, and it's great because you don't really get, especially online, you don't get the same kind of feedback. So it's been brilliant. I love that. Okay, so keep that going. So it's been brilliant, just people who are saying that they've been injury free or they're running pain free for the first time in ages, or they've gone through this month and they haven't had a niggle, and that never happens at this time of the year. Now it's important to look at what you do to see what you can change, because Madness is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. So here are a few things that you want to be looking at that you might be doing. The first one is too much running too soon. Okay, so running is a repetitive action. It's repeated, thousands of times. So you are more predisposed to an overuse injury because you're just using the same range of motion, the same kind of cadence the whole time. That's why that's really what the Sports Pilates was developed for, to get you moving through the full range of motion, fire up those muscles that don't really get switched on during running. But because you haven't fired on in Sports Pilates, it then allows your body to use those muscles to take pressure off the joints and help avoid injuries. But don't, as a general rule, right, when you are running, and especially if you're building back up after a break or just in general you have more time, don't go up more than 10% per week. Is that okay? So if you've ran 20 miles this week, don't do more than 22 miles the next week. And the week after that, so that would be week 2, you do 22 miles. Week 3, we do 24 miles because that's 2 miles on from the 20. I'm going to confuse myself in a second. So week 1, you did 20. Week 2, you did 22. Week 3, you did 24. Week 4, you always go back to your first week. So week 4, you do 20 miles again. Okay, and now, because you were on 24 on week 3, on week 5, you can do 10% to 24, which is 2.4. So my maths is going to fail me now pretty soon. So that'll be like 26.4, 28.8, and so on. And then that fourth week, you go back to your original mileage. Is that okay? And that way you get nice progression in your mileage, but you're not overdoing it. Okay, and the same with your long run. Never do more than 10%, only for 3 weeks, and the 4th week drop back down. I'm buzzing with these newsletters, honestly. When I read them here, I'm like, this is gold. Like, so I'm glad how they're coming out. Don't go too fast too often, okay? Especially if you're not used to it. Ease in, like, and don't go flat out as well. Now, I do like variation in sessions. I don't think speed sessions, generally for people, because they do a lot of plodding, a lot of long running, speed sessions are picking it up or will be good, but always do those at like about 90%, like, so kind of like I call it feeling good, looking good, feeling easy. So you just try to do it nearly like if someone was watching, it's like, God, they're having good form there, you know. So you're not putting yourself under excessive strain, especially if you're not used to doing quicker stuff. So adding a few strides in, but making sure that you're, hopefully that's not getting hit. Adding a few strides in, but just keeping an eye on it, not going too quickly, not going overly pushing. Do some of your strides, do some speedier work, but always keep it a little bit more conservative, especially if you're not used to it at the start. The next one then is too little recovery between runs. Improvement comes, lads, with the general adaptation. So say you're at this level, when you stretch yourself, now I'm talking about a proper hard session, when you come down, that like fatigues your body. And then when you recover correctly, like your adequate sleep, hydration, nutrition, you come up to your level, but you don't stay at that level. You get what's called a super compensation effect. So you go up slightly higher, and then over time, say start here, down, back up, and gradually you're doing a cool little thing with your hand. Alright, so again, what you want to make sure is that you're not doing hard sessions back to back. Is that okay? Ideally, you want to be putting one easy day in between each, or varying the training. So you could do like Pilates, a session, an easy run, another session. You know, you wouldn't want to go like, because Pilates is different, but you wouldn't want to go hard running session Monday, hard running session Tuesday. Do you know who's absolutely terrible for this? Triathletes, because they have different coaches for each event. So what happens is they do like a really hard, say, like running session on Monday, and they're buzzing, and then the next day they're like out doing a really hard cycle, you know, and the next day they're doing a really hard swim. Okay, so like that's not, you can't sustain that. Like what you need to do is plan your week. So maybe your cycle, you're going to do that as the longer cycle on, but not at high intensity. And this week you're going to do a shorter run that's working on your lactic threshold, or you're going to do a swim that's working on VO2 max. Is that okay? But just space them out more. Is that okay? Or if you're doing something, it can't just all every day be hard. So that definitely, triathletes are the mad. I remember like training the Kilkenny guys, being buzzing after a Wednesday session, and a few of them were out racing the next day. You know, it's like, no, man, like you don't go as hard as you can today and then have a race tomorrow. You know, you usually try to separate it by at least one day. And like, especially now if you're lean, that doesn't mean the next day you're doing nothing, but you're just doing like maybe an easier, longer run, or some kind of something a bit more controlled, that you're not just going hard every day. So try plan your week well. And again, as I said, especially with triathletes, you see that because they don't, like, because they have separate coaches, okay, and it's difficult. Like I was doing it when I was training like the triathletes for running. Like you're thinking, I just want to do a really good session, they're buzzing, but then the next day they're going into the pool and they're doing another session. So just watch your body for that. Running surface choice, okay, sometimes that can't be helped, but like obviously if you can run on grass, that's going to be way better. Changing your surface every so often is going to be better, because you're going to use different it's going to impact the body differently, and just offsets the kind of stress that's going to be placed. So you don't want to be running on tarmac or road all the time if it can be helped. Obviously in the winter that's very difficult, but if you can get to like quite decent grass, it'd be brilliant. And even for a little while it's still good. Or you might do someone off trail and stuff like that. And I'm going to have one coming on the pros and negatives of all the different running surfaces, but varying your running surfaces is normally best. And then if you can, stay on the grass for the most part, because running injuries are generally passive injuries. And what passive injuries means is their tendons, their ligaments, their joints. Okay, so we're not using our muscles. So having a softer surface like grass allows you not to take as much impact back up the body through the joints. Okay, race events again. Racing, because it's competitive and you don't get to stop in the middle to see how you are, always there's a little bit increased chance of risk. You don't want to. I like racing, but you don't want to be over racing all the time either. Then the next one, supplementary training like gym work or Pilates. And again, of course, I was going to put in Pilates here, but so I am biased. Like, I'm not going to lie about that, but it is something that's massive. It's like, as I said, running is so repetitive that it's easy. It's easy. You get fitter, you're fitter, but like, cause you're not moving through your joints that well, and it's very small range of motion, and you're not using your muscles, it's easy to get stiffer and things to start getting achy and niggly. So the thing with like sports Pilates or gym, it fires back up the muscles, and then that allows you to use your muscles more when you're running, which helps take pressure off the joints. Okay, so runners don't ever get, it's not like soccer, like they don't get hamstring pulls, like they don't get muscle tears. What they get is like shin splints, like the muscle being broken down slightly, or they get their Achilles gets tight, or their hip gets tight, or their back, or plantar fasciitis. They're all ones where it's like the passive structure of the body just gets overloaded. So you need something that switches on and fires up the muscles way more. Okay, next one then is incorrect running shoes. Again, basically speak to an expert on that. Just it's the first thing. If you have shoes for a long time, maybe just change them up and see if that takes away the pain. And then lack of a last one, kind of linked to the sports Pilates, like lack of flexibility or poor stability accounts for a large proportion of the running injuries. When you're tight and flexible muscles, it's like elastic band. It's like it's harder for it to stretch. So you just need something to help reset your body. And I know I go on about that a lot, but it is, if you have something then that counterbalances and gets you moving better, it allows you to stay supple, so you get much more out of the specific training that you're doing. Okay, so it's important that you're strong, and just as I mentioned there, that like you're able to switch on that muscle. I just have a note here that obviously I'm a physio as well, so I have a lot of guides on leg pain or back pain. So if you hear people complaining about these things when they're running, message me maybe on owneverard@gmail.com, and I can send you like a guide to give them just to help them out as well, just as a thank you for being part of the group. And if you're not part of the group and you have, if that's your issue, just email me on owneverard@gmail.com. Great, so that's the newsletter. Just a quick note again, if you hear people, a lot of people don't know about Pilates, they don't know, or they think, oh, that's not for men, or no, that wouldn't be for me, basically, or they're talking about niggles. So if you hear someone complain about niggles or pain or not really knowing what they're doing when they're going to be getting ready for a marathon, you can message me on owneverard@gmail.com, and I can send them like even a 15-minute guide, or we can give them a free trial when the next course is going on, just so they can see it, and then they can decide after that trial if it's right for them. But it's better, it's better, you know, a lot of people don't know what they don't know, if you get that. So once they're aware of it, at least then they have the choice. And I've had people who, you know, sent in people and they were like, loved it for the week, and they're like, you know what, I just don't have the time, and that's perfect. And then I have other people who we sent them out, they joined the free trial, and they absolutely love Pilates now, and they're very thankful to the person who recommended it, because they've always had to say niggles and they didn't know this was kind of out there. So yeah, again, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. The newsletter will be out, and this is obviously just a YouTube video to me talking about it in case you don't like to read.